Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Today's video is going to be my March book reviews part 2 because I was reading Beast in March. I'll link down part 1 down below. At the end of this video I'm going to say what my Tay book club pick. So I'm just going to get straight into it because I read so much in March it was ridiculous. I read a Emily Dickinson poetry collection. This is just like some of her poems compiled into this. It's got like pieces of art next to it. I enjoyed this. I like Emily Dickinson when she's talking about nature and the countryside. Love it. Anything else, I'm not a massive fan of. When she talks about death, I find that quite interesting. But I find like her nature and countryside poems are so magical and so beautiful. That's what I really love of her. I wish I could get a book where it was just all of her talking about the countryside, like Emily Dickinson's In the Fields of England, like something like that. I would absolutely adore. But I did really still enjoy this. I then have a book which is a very famous book, and when I hauled this I'd never heard of this book, and so much in the comments you guys were like, oh my god, that's a really good book. This came out in 1980 and this is called The Most Evil Novel of All Time. Sorry, that's like the little tagline. Sea Trial, that's what it's called. Sea Trial. It's by Frank de Felitta. And it's about a man and a woman who are having an affair together. So they're both middle-aged and they're both married to separate people, and they have been having an affair. It's just a sexual relationship for quite some time now, and they decide that they're going to end their affair, but before they end it they want to go on a holiday. One last hurrah, if you will. I don't know if people do that if they're having an affair. Do they have one last jolly out together? I don't know. But they have some time free where they can get away and their like partners won't be suspicious. So they decide, let's go on holiday together, this will be like our last time together. So they then meet a couple who have their own boat, and it's called the Penny Dreadful, the boat. And the couple, it's man and a woman, they're really nice, and they say, you can come on our boat, we do like a package deal thing where you board and stay inside the boat, and we just go round and you can sunbathe on the boat and it'll be beautiful, and we'll take you to all these islands and it'll be a really relaxing, lovely adventure. So they get on this boat, everything seems fine. It's very sexual, there's a lot of sex, but I suppose it is their last hurrah, if you will, and then they fall into deep trouble. So I'm not going to say too much about this, but things start going wrong on the boat very early on, and so the captain's saying, you have to help us with this, and then the wife, who's called Penny's like, you have to help us with this, we need help on the boat. And then the boat falls into terrible trouble, and both of them have to kind of become crew members for the boat, and they're both thinking, this is a bit odd, this was supposed to be like a lovely holiday and we've paid this money for this nice holiday, and now it's turning into a nightmare. And then at the end it's an actual nightmare. I really enjoyed it. I thought it got a little bit boring in the middle, but then the end is just like, what the hell? It turns into some kind of Lifetime movie. I really enjoyed it. I found it very entertaining, very good from me. I also just love the picture, like, had to say something about that. Love how cheesy that is. I would recommend that, but it's very far-fetched. Like, it's not something that could actually happen. Just know that now. It's very Lifetime movie-y. I then read Agatha Christie, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. I picked this for my March book club that I run on this channel, Tay Book Club Pick. And this is a murder mystery and we read it together, and I've done a full video review on this. But basically it's about a woman who, she's called Miss Inglethorpe, and she has this massive country home. She has 2 adult sons and she's married a man who's 20 years younger than her. And her sons are very unhappy that this younger man may get their inheritance. And then Hastings comes to stay with them, he's a friend of the family, and then Miss Inglethorpe ends up being poisoned. And Poirot, who is a Belgian detective, is in the nearby village, and he knew Miss Inglethorpe and he is friends with Hastings, and so Hastings says, can you come and sort out who murdered her? And he's like, yes, no problem, fine. And that's what it's about. Absolutely loved it. I love Agatha Christie. This was Poirot's first case as well. The first Agatha Christie Poirot book. Loved it. Absolutely adored that. I then buddy read this. Buddy read this, sorry, 2 Essex today. This is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, and I read this with Books and Things, Katie. I'll link down her booktube channel down below. She has a fantastic booktube channel, but I'm sure you're all subscribed to her anyway. She does like classics to modern day books. Love her channel. So we actually buddy read this together, and this, let me tell you when it was published, because I think it's like quite interesting to know when this was published. This was first published in 1925, and this is about an orphaned girl who goes to live, I don't want to like give it away, but she goes to live in Avonlea, Green Gables with this brother and sister, and the brother and sister are two adults and they've never got married, they've always just lived together, and they wanted to get a young boy to work on their farm, but they end up by accident adopting Anne, who's a young girl, and she's just so lovely. And it's really a series of kind of short stories about Anne, so Anne fitting into the school, Anne making friends, and then what's Anne going to do with her future. The woman who looks after her is called Morella, and I love her. It's Morella and Matthew, and Morella's quite a harsh woman, I would say, but she wouldn't be harsh at the time, she'd be normal at the time, but for our standards she's always a little bit harsh to Anne, because Anne's so like lovely and she's very chatty and she's very full of life, and Morella's always a little bit cutting her down. I was like, oh, but I think that's just of the time. This is set in Canada. I adored it. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. It's just, imagine like straw hats, this girl with this gorgeous ginger hair, she's skipping down the road, she's going to church, she's going to school, she's making friends, she's being cut down by Marilla's sass. Like, she's having a great time. I just really did love it. I thought it had so much heart within it. I loved it. Like, there's so many stories that are coming into my head about it. I love it when and Marilla thinks Anne's like stolen a brooch and that whole thing. She's like, I've got a thief under my roof. I love that whole situation. I loved it. It was really great. Don't know if I should read on though. I understand it is a series and it goes on, but the first book is so good, I feel like nothing could really compare to it. But if you have read the series and gone on to read, is it as good as the first book? Or is it just, it kind of has that charm, but it's not as good? Because I loved the first book. I thought it was perfect. It was great. Katie actually really liked it as well. So next up, I read Just One Day by Gayle Forman. I read this when this first came out, and I will tell you when that was, because I didn't read it, sorry, I bought it when it first came out, and it first came out in 2013. So I bought this brand new 2013, haven't read it till now. This was a booktube fave, and I remember I hadn't started the channel yet, like this channel, and I was watching a lot of booktube and people kept mentioning this book, so I bought it. This is a YA. It's about it's about an 18-year-old American who, she is about to start college, but before you go to college you have like a little break, like we'd call it a summer holidays in the UK, I don't know what you call it in America, and she uses that time to go around Europe with her friend. Her parents pay for it, so she's going around Europe, she's seen all these great countries. She comes to England. She then meets a boy who is from Holland, and she says, oh, you know, I've loved it around Europe and now we're going to London, but I would have loved to have gone to Paris. And they couldn't go to Paris because that day there was like bad weather or something. And he says, why don't I just take you to Paris? Just for one day, just one day. Why don't I take you to Paris? Let's go and explore it. She doesn't know this boy, and let me just say, this boy isn't on the trip with the other people. He's just a stranger she's met. Insta love. She's instantly like, yeah, great, spend one day with you. She doesn't even have the right currency. Like, how would she have that? He pays for it, which is weird that he would like pay for her ticket for her to go. I feel like I'm being very harsh on this. When I was reading it, I enjoyed it. I thought it reminded me of my first heartbreak. When you first fall in love, that probably isn't going to work out. I'm sorry to tell you, but when you're in your first real love, you think, oh my god, this is it. This is it, we're gonna be together forever, and then that person may cheat on you or you may break up. It's just really the real heartbreak, which is like, it hurts emotionally, but it also hurts physically, and I'd completely forgotten about all those emotions because I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend for a few years now. We live together, you know, I don't remember what heartbreak felt like. So reading this, it took me back to that time, and I felt really sorry for my younger self, my 17-year-old self. I felt so like, oh, upset for her, so I thought it was great. It was giving me a lot of nostalgia. The end, how hello, this is Hannah from the future, because the file corrupted when I was talking about this book. So I'm going to give you my roundup thoughts on this book and then get back to the original video you've just seen. The file self-destructed only when I was talking about the ending of this book, and it's probably because I just went full on rant. So I'm just going to try and control myself. This book, I loved the nostalgia. It took me back to my younger self. The ending of the book, however, turned into a stalker from hell. I hate when stalking is seen as romantic when actually it's stalking. It was ridiculous. I just thought it was so far-fetched, the ending. I felt like it brought down the whole book because I thought the book was a meaning about heartbreak, and I thought, oh my god, that's so clever, that's so good that, you know, some things just don't work out and that's it, and life's not a fairy tale. It's a harsh lesson, but it's a lesson that we all learn. Oh, stop ranting. I feel myself being like, ah! But the ending of this, wow. The last scene, I was like, what? Sorry? Yeah, but I don't want to drag the whole book down because it gave me something. It took me back to my younger heartbreak. It gave me a lot, but right at the end, that bit, oh, just stop reading. Just stop reading. When you feel the story's going in a fantasy direction, just put the book down and go, oh, that was an okay book. That's my review. And last but not least, I read The Collector by John Fowles. This came out in 1963. And it's about a man who, you don't know how old he is, but you kind of assume early 30s. He works at the council building and he does this. He like pins bugs and butterflies and he studies them. He doesn't have a lot of friends. He doesn't really have a social life and he doesn't get on with his work colleagues. And he sees this woman who you think's about kind of 18 years old. He sees her every day and he kind of stalks her. He looks from his office in the council building over to her house and watches her and becomes incredibly obsessed with Miranda. So then what happens is he wins some money and he buys this house and he thinks, what if I just kidnapped Miranda and let her live in my basement and made her fall in love with me? So the first half of the book is him planning the kidnap. He's won this big money and he's started stalking Miranda. She started art college. And then he kidnaps her and he puts her in his basement and tries to get her to fall in love with him, but he doesn't do anything sexual with her, and he's saying like, I couldn't do anything sexual with Miranda. She's always like this goddess that he can't touch and he can't be near, but he needs near him all the time and he just wants to keep in captivity, like a beautiful butterfly. You know, butterflies are beautiful. He wants to like kill them, pin them, keep them, preserve them, but not have anything to do with them. It's kind of like that, and he's very obsessive over her and he holds her up on such a high pedestal. So the first half is all about that. Then there's another bit of it, the next part, which is Miranda, and it's Miranda's diary entry that she's been doing since she's been kept in his basement. Loved that bit. Oh my god, the first bit with him kidnapping her, everything happens so quick and there's no chapters within it, so it just goes on and on and on and on, and it became a little bit boring near the end of that, and then it flitted to Miranda's diary and I was like, oh my god, it's so interesting how her take on the events that you've already seen through his eyes. So, you know, him panicking, she's trying to escape, what am I going to do? And then you read it in her journal entry, her side of the story. I'm going to escape today, this is what I'm going to do. So good, and she tries to escape loads throughout the book. I thought this was such a good book. It was so good. Will say the first part of it got a little bit boring after he had her down in the basement and she kept trying to escape and he kept capturing her. It was a bit like to and fro of that, but when it got to Miranda's diary, that's when I felt like it really gained pace, and then from that point till the end it was just like non-stop. I didn't mind that it didn't have chapters, to be honest with you. I normally like to finish reading at the end of a chapter, but I didn't mind with this because when it got really fast paced, you just wanted to keep on reading. I loved this. I thought this was so good. It was so creepy and weird, and there's this man who's very socially awkward with people, and he's got this beautiful young woman in his basement, and she's thinking of all these different ways. So she's thinking, should I use brute force and try and escape? So she tries that. Should I try and seduce him in some way and get him weak so that I can escape? But he's just so awkward. He won't even kind of like converse with her. It's all very odd. Loved it. Thought it was such a good book. Really highly recommend. So weird, really good. So those are the books that I read in March. I'm now going to give you my April book club pick. So if you want to be a part of my book club, Tay Book Club, all you have to do is read the book that I'm going to hold up, and then before the end of April send me your review of it. You can leave it in the comments in this video or on an Instagram picture on my Instagram. You can leave your review. I will take a picture of it and read it out in my review videos. as I always do. So, and you can use the hashtag #TayBookClub if you want to talk to me about it, or just like message me and we can chat about the book and our reading progress. So I wanted to choose a book that was short, that had something to do with Ireland, so set in Ireland or an Irish author, because I'm going to Ireland in April. I'm going to Belfast, and so I chose a book that has a very famous Irish author, and this is The Testament of Mary by Colin Tolbin. This is 100 pages, and Colin himself is Irish, and so that's my like Irish bit into it. But this is about Jesus's mother, and the book takes place after Jesus has been crucified, and it's about Mary. What did Mary do after Jesus was crucified? And I have often said that I'm very interested in Mary's actual life. What did she actually do when her son was crucified? What happened to her after that point? This is obviously fictional, so it's a complete fictional take on what she could be thinking and feeling, and also she's reliving events that we know from the Bible, but she's saying it in her person. It's completely like fictional, but I thought it would be a really interesting book for us to read. So comment down below if you're going to read this one. Like I said, really short, it's 100 pages. I think it's going to be fantastic. It was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2013. I've only heard great things about it, so if you're going to read along, let me know down below. And this is it. This is the end of the video. I hope you've had a great reading month. Tell me what the best book was that you read in March, and I will see you again very soon for another video.